Sox in the basement.
I had a whole episode planned. Like, I had involved things with you, Ed. I was ready to just dive into 30 minutes of Sox with you today.
Really, really deep White Sox content.
Yes, that was my plan. And then the first
I've been cramming for days.
The first guest of the $1,000 guest bounty called me a few hours ago on the phone. And I was just going to set the interview up. And I'm going to paraphrase, but it's very close to what he said. I'm ready to go. I'm warmed up in the bullpen. You got to put me in now. And so Don Cooper, World Series champion Don Cooper, pitching coach for the White Sox for so long, managed a few games. You always hear Scott Merkin bring that up on this episode in just moments. And I don't need you. I can go easy on you today because I have nothing but Don Cooper today. And he is
if he's warmed up, he's going to go 9.
Oh,
he wants to go 9.
You're going to notice that's a big deal for him in this interview. In this interview, when we start talking pitching, that's a big deal for him. He's ready to take the whole show. He's taking the ball. He's taking the whole show. He was absolutely incredible. And I love this whole interview. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. If you're watching on YouTube, there's going to be a point where the video goes out because Don wore out the cameras. They shut themselves down because they were overheating. That's how long he's on the show today. And that's perfectly fine with me. That's the camera's fault. That's not Don Cooper's fault.
Right.
If you want to be in on the $1,000 guest bounty, don't worry. It's not a victory yet for the Don Cooper submission, but we put the bar out there for you. You can win $1,000 by helping us set up a guest this off season. And if that guest comes on the show, the fans will vote later on as spring training is starting on which was the best guest of the offseason. This is the first entry. It's brought to you by Cork and Kerry at the park with the award-winning burgers and the ballpark favorites, the in-game, the pregame, the postgame, the spot to be over at 33rd and Princeton. Make plans during the season to be there. Stop by in the offseason. It's a great neighborhood bar. And don't forget about their location along Western Avenue at about 106th Street in Beverly. But Cork and Kerry, all the information, everything about them could be found at corkandkerry.com. But go to soxinthebasement.com and just use all the tools that are there. Or go to any of our social media and tell us who you think you can help us get on Sox in the Basement. And he's got to he or she. They have to follow Don Cooper now this offseason. And I think Don's going to set the bar at a really solid, great starting level, my friend. I'm excited about this one.
This is a complete game right here.
Yeah. That's a big deal for him. You're going to hear it. It's a big deal for him. So the show will go a little bit longer because what I learned is that Don Cooper, he gives very detailed answers. I laughed. I almost cry at one point when we start talking about Bobby Jenks. Like, it is a great little interview. And because I want to give it to you commercial free, we're also going to throw in one more spot here right at the beginning of the show, because then that way I can just go Don Cooper commercial free. So for exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high pressure sales, not in your kitchen. You are in their showroom. They get to see everything. You get to ask any question of their owner. There's an owner on site. When they do the install as well, they don't farm out the work. They use all of their own installers. They've been doing it that way for over 40 years in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. And joining me on the phone line right now, and this is an incredible treat for me because anytime I get to talk to somebody who is part of the 2005 World Series champion White Sox, my heart goes aflutter because this team made my father cry tears of joy, and me as well. And a lot of the credit goes to this man right here who had 4 starters throw complete games in games 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the ALCS. The master of, I think, teaching the cutter, Don Cooper on Sox in the Basement. How are you, Coop?
I'm well, and it's nice to be able to talk to you. I listened to what you just said, and yeah, we had 4 starters we won a world championship, but after next year, we had those 4 starters do what they did. But, as you were saying, I'm saying, man, that's really neglecting everybody else on the staff, because they all did a heck of a job for us that season for sure. And not only the staff, the team, it was a special team. And it is truly one team, looking back on it, that everybody contributed. And they all deserved, certainly a lot of praise for the job that they did during the season, 162-game season. It's a marathon. And then all of the playoffs. But we kind of made the playoffs a little bit quicker because we were really red hot.
Yeah, you guys were hot. And the thing was, once you hit it, you hit the gas. And this is something I do every postseason. I wait for every team to lose their second game because I love the fact that the Sox ran through that postseason with the best record, at least in that era. They only lost 1 game in that postseason. Like, did you feel that magic during the season? Is that something that as it's happening throughout the postseason, you're like, wow, like when do you start to realize you're special?
That's a good question. And I don't think it's ever been posed, but I can remember many games early in the season and during the season saying, son of a bitch, how did we win that one? We pulled that one out, or something happened that, was like a positive vibe that we made a comeback. We made a good play. We're winning. All of the close games were going in our favor. And I kept saying to myself, probably a half a dozen times in the first, I'm going to say month and a half, like, son of a bitch, this might be our year. And, we continued on with the season. But there was a time also that I felt, and it was really after we clinched in Detroit. We finally got in. Listen, we won 99 games, but yet we didn't know it was in till 3 games left. We won the final game in Detroit. We clinched. Okay, we're in. And now we got 3 more games against the Indians, who were red hot. Everybody was talking about the Indians are going to catch us. But we won 99 games. You know what I mean? I mean, they were playing very well too. It wasn't like the division was a tough division, and Cleveland was a good team. But they were fighting to get in. We get in, we go play Cleveland, we sweep their asses, and it was kind of like we were watching what we were looking like for a while. We were, like I said, won 99 games. We weren't, everybody was thinking more, we're going to blow it, or, things like that. That didn't happen. I mean, but when we clinched in Detroit, it was like we're in, everybody could just kind of breathe and realize that the marathon, our first part of the goal, was achieved. We got our asses in. And, it was a real interesting time, but once we got in, we really started rolling. But there was one moment, I'll bring this up now while it's on my mind, that I said, holy crap, the moon and the stars are now aligned. There's nothing stopping us. And it really did feel like it had a life of its own at one point, that nothing could stop us. But when AJ struck out and ran to first base against the Angels, and all of that happened. Now, I'm not even going to get into analyzing or talking about it, but if you know, you know. If if you're somebody that followed the White Sox, you'll know this moment. Remember the moment. And we came back and beat them. And then we were on a roll after that. Listen, it was a magical year, but yes, there were times that I said, son of a gun, something's going on here. We're pulling out games that, and it's like, how did we do that? Wow. And we became a good team. And what I said earlier, everybody on that team, everybody that came in, can honestly say they contributed. It really was a group effort. And some special moments along the way, like you had mentioned, the complete games. That'll never be done again. I don't see that ever happening again. If it does, God bless whoever's doing it, because now the game has changed. Now you got starters going 4 or 5 innings. Not in my book. The way we saw it, our starters are going 6 innings minimum. And when I say 6 innings, we're just going to let you got to go out there and take care of things, and they did. That staff was a magical staff that they went to the post. They stayed healthy. They gave us a chance every single time they went out there. That's the starters. I never was into who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I never was into those numbers there, because whoever's out there that day is our number 1, and we treated it that way. And the bullpen also, we had a dynamite bullpen. It was interesting. We had Shingo at one point, then we had Dustin Hermanson at one point, and then we had Bobby Jenks at one point, being the guy that was trying to get the last out for us. So that's it was a magical year, and I'm always touched when I hear somebody say, "Well, our parents saw it before they died, and they were in tears and things like that." I'm not real sentimental about a lot of baseball stuff. This year is a little different. Winning a world championship, a little different. But when I hear that kind of reaction from us winning, and all of the people that in some ways have been long-suffering fans, had a right to throw their chest out and brag a little bit.
Oh yeah,
on their team and on their team. So to be like, see that, it was cool.
You say so many interesting things there. I have like 7 follow-up questions, but there's one that I definitely want to ask you about your staff, because when I knew you were coming on, I thought to myself, what is somebody not asked Don Cooper? Or at least I haven't heard them ask. And I think about
good luck.
And I think about your starters. I think everybody always points to Mark Burley, worked really fast. He's got some great stories from that playoff run. People refer to Freddie Garcia as Big Game Freddie. Contreras when he comes over. Everybody was like a name, and then you had a Jon Garland, and that's who I want to ask you about. That's his career year.
I got stories in my mind, my memory bank, about every name you could bring up on that staff.
Well,
I've got
the guy I want to ask about is Garland. Where does that come from? Where does the Jon Garland season come from, where he puts that together so well? Because if he doesn't have that season, I don't know if they're as good. Like, he had a great year, and he really put it together, and I think he's like the forgotten guy. Yeah.
Well, he was never forgotten by us. I remember when I first got the job, Jerry Manuel was the manager, and there was a lot of times that John was coming out after 5 innings, and I remember having a conversation about, well, how are we ever going to find out if he can do it or not? Everybody's got their doubts, and, I'm hearing nothing but doubts about you only go 6 innings, 5, 6 innings, that's it. And I didn't buy into it. I need that proven to me, that's true. And so they started giving him some opportunities. And then he kind of grew into it. The year before, I think it was 2004, hey, listen, he was a young kid trying to make his way still. He wasn't an old, wily veteran. He was still trying to figure out, his assets and how he best uses those assets. And, we were talking about being super aggressive, controlling the count, come up right at people, get contact with the first 3 pitches. You're a ground ball guy. Well, go get him. And then we developed a little bit of a cutter, and he had a good curveball, and he had a good changeup. So, he had all of the physical attributes to be a solid guy, and he did. If you look back on his career, he had a solid career for himself. But it was just kind of like he was ready to blossom because all of the physical was there. And I can remember myself and AJ having a long talk about Garland and the best way to, help him along. So AJ deserves credit for that as well. When we're talking about Garland in particularly, because we want them to be super aggressive. Don't be messing around. We don't want you. Get ahead in the count. Dare them to hit the first, second, or third pitch. And if they don't hit it, you're ahead 0-2 or 1-2. Let's make that our mantra. And that's what he was able to do better. And, as I say that, when I look back on everybody that I came in contact with as a pitching coach, I was always looking and searching for more and more strikes. And when I say strikes, I mean quality strikes. I mean commanded strikes. I was never looking for balls. Now, don't get me wrong. We had days where, a lot of our guys could get ahead. So there were practice days we'd have, all right, we're practicing nothing but 0-2, 1-2 put-away pitches. We're practicing put-away pitches here. And, that could be something up above the zone. It could be stuff below the zone. And, we practice balls rarely is what I'm saying. We were practicing and working for strikes and attacking because that's how you get deeper in games. Listen, part of watching some baseball now for me, and I don't watch much, is starters going 3, 4 innings, 5 innings. I remember somebody coming up in one of the last meetings with the White Sox saying, well, we can hope for 4 innings out of them. No, time out. I can't utter those words. I'm not hoping for 4. I'm saying 6 minimum. That's your job. That's why they get paid bigger money, starters, because their job is a little bit bigger and a little bit more, not necessarily important, but it is more important because the starting pitcher you put out there, he's the most, in my mind, the most important guy on the field, because if he takes care of his stuff, everything's going to be right where it needs to be. And then, we completed all those games. It was a different time. Now science has taken over. And then when you think about it, it's taken over a lot of different things, not only baseball, and the newest thing is going to be the automated strike zone. I can't wait to see that in some ways. What's the umpire going to be doing? He's just going to be standing back there and maybe get hit with foul balls, maybe get hit with a pitch. He's not calling balls and strikes, is he? I don't know.
No, he's not doing it. He's doing a lot less.
So he's like a mannequin. And he's going to call safe and out at home plate. How often does that come up?
They'll get a computer that'll do that too.
That's a whole different subject. There's a lot of rules. The new rules. I'm an old school guy. I like traditional things, and so I like the starters going the length. I remember there was an in-game interview during the Angels series, and we were out in Anaheim. We're playing the Angels. We had this was like the last game of the game we won, and we're moving on to the World Series. During the game, they asked me, well, every game was completed except one. The first game against the Angels, a reliever, I think it was Neil Cox, threw like 7 pitchers or something like that. I think that's what happened. Might have been Polite, but complete game, almost a complete game. Every other game was complete. So the question to me was, well, what are you looking for from the bullpen tonight? And I said, she's not much, hopefully, because, the more bullpen guys you use, the more ifs. I was a guy that looked for reasons to keep guys in the game, not to take them out, and that's what's going back. We were talking about Garland. We finally gave Garland the opportunity. Hey, go longer. You're okay. You're still fighting through it. And I think he gained from that experience. We were giving him more rope. It's his game until you make us come get you. You know what I mean? And AJ, like I said, was big in that because we were pumping this kid with confidence. His stuff was solid enough. He's a first-round draft pick with the Cubs. We got him in a trade, and he was still a young kid, and that's kind of when the year before, I think in '04 he did all right. He was always okay. And then in '05 he stepped up, but so did so many others. So many others. And I don't mean pitchers only. So many others stepped up. And that's what it takes, I guess.
You need
that.
The
last team standing.
Yeah, you need guys that step up for sure. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you keep mentioning the thing with pitchers going deep, and we yell about that on the show all the time. Like, in my mind, that's an actual stat. A quality start is 6 innings, giving up 3 runs or less, and I don't even think that's a great start. That just shows that you were competent when you were out on the mound, and now that's not something that people seem to look for. I know that you would love to see starters go later in games.
I have no idea. Why people don't look for that. I could do that tomorrow, I believe. You give me 5 guys, I'm going to get them we're going to get them through 6 innings. We're going to figure out what to do and how to navigate through that to get to at least 6. And then nowadays too, you got the openers. You got to relieve it. Well, that means you're not in love with your starter, and I want to love my stars. When you use an opener, what's the reason behind that? You can't be in love with your starter. What are you telling them? Well, we'll bring you in the 2nd inning, but we're going to let this guy go first. I don't get it. But what was your question? I'm sorry.
Well, I was bringing that up as that's part of the modern game, and then I was going to kind of talk a little bit about what the Sox are starting to do, which I think it's interesting because you love the cutter. I mean, that's something I've always noticed. You like to teach the cutter. You think it's a great pitch. I'm noticing that the Sox are also starting to teach that again. Like some of these younger guys they're bringing up, that's something that they're throwing into their repertoire. Why is the cutter such an effective pitch, and why do you think that they're going back to showing kids, hey, learn this pitch, put this in your arsenal?
Well, they're doing it now. They're teaching it back because they realize they left the crap out. The cutter's a valuable pitch. Any pitch is a valuable pitch. If you can throw it where you want, when you want. Anything is valuable. You know what I mean? But we're talking about the cutter. I like the cutter, but you know what? I like the curveball, too. I like the slider. I like the 2-seam fastball. I like the 4-seam fastball. I like the changeup. I like the split. I like them all. Show me we can use them. Show me you can do it, and we'll put it in there. I'm not looking to stifle somebody. If you've got weapons and assets, whip them out, please. The cutter can get the barrel of the bat off the ball. You're cutting it for a right-handed pitcher. You're cutting it basically on the guy's belly button. But the strike zone's changed an awful lot too. I think it's a lot tighter. Here's a question that I have about that too, because going from, we talked about the pitches a little bit. The cutters they're all valuable, man. If you can use them and repeat them, because if you can do that, the hitter doesn't know what you're going to throw, and right away you have the advantage. You don't know he doesn't know what you're going to throw, and you know where and what you're going to throw and where. And if you can execute that, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be a successful pitch. The conversation is a good one. I'm enjoying it. wanted to throw that out there to you.
Oh, thanks.
Give me another question because this is giving me my baseball fix for the day.
I love it. Okay, so here's a thing I was wondering what you thought about this. Okay, so you mentioned earlier about guys not going deep in the games. You got the pitch clock now. You've got in the postseason, you've got teams essentially just trying to get 4 innings out of their starter. I feel like a Mark Burley would be even more valuable these days, like because he works fast. Like, what do you sit there every once in a while and think about your guys and go, man, if he played in the modern era here, he'd have made twice the amount of money. Do you ever think that?
No, I don't. I think a good pitcher will figure out what he's got to do. A good pitcher is a good pitcher in any era. A top guy is a top guy in any era. You know what I mean? Roger Clemens, if he came back throwing like he did, he'd be a top guy right now. There's a lot of guys that are good. I think the strike zone difference would hurt guys to a degree like a Burley, like a Moyer, like a Glavin, in some ways like a Loiza, in some ways. I see it as a cookie cutter. I like having an umpire calling balls and strikes, but what they're calling now, they're as tight as a crab's ass to me. And the question I got is, hey, man, where is this strike zone? Is it in front of home plate? Is it the middle of home plate? Is it the point on home plate in the back? Or is it back by the catcher? Where's the strike zone? The box that you see on TV. You see a box, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it.
But where is that box? Where is that box placed? Front, middle, back, or all the way back by the umpire? You know what I mean? And because there's pitches that can cross the plate and still end up outside of that box, but across the plate. You know what I mean? I don't like some of that. The only rule I like, and is the best one, and it was preached since I was in Little League: work fast. Get the ball. Don't dick around. Don't be walking around rubbing the ball and looking into the stands. Get on the mound, focus, commit, try to make the next pitch. And Burley did that. But that was always encouraged. We didn't want guys working slow. Our slowest worker was probably Freddie. It might have been also Contreras to a degree. But they weren't like ultra slow. But they weren't as quick as Burley. Heck, man, there wasn't many as quick as Burley.
No, if I planned on having a 3-4 hour day at the ball game and hang out with my friends, it could not be a Mark Burley game. It could have been over. Sometimes it was over in less than 2 hours.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That's a great point, because I used to say, hey, if it's a 1 o'clock game, you can make a 5 o'clock dinner reservation because it's only going to take 2.5. And it never went 3 with Burley. It didn't seem like it was going to be quick. Whatever he did was going to be quick, and more often than not, he was good. And handled his job description, like we started this conversation off with. He's 6, 7, 8, and sometimes 9. Same with Garland. And for me, that's, if I walked into somebody's clubhouse tomorrow, that's what we'd be doing. And if somebody else wants to add something into me, say, hey, we might go here. No. Okay, I'll listen to anything. But the starter's job description, one of the things is you take the bulk of the game. The bulk of the game is 6. And more than that, bonus. The more you go. And we're not going to let guys stay in the game if they're not doing well, if they're struggling, and usually what happens during a game, the hitters let you know if you should be in the game or not. We're watching the game. And again, I look for reasons to keep guys in, not to take them out. And that was always my thought. But you had to deserve it. You had to earn it. Everything had to be, right for you to continue to proceed. And more often than not, it was. I miss those days and there's guys still out there that, when you see the playoffs, you telling me you don't want to start going 6, 7, or 8 innings for you?
Oh no, I want that.
Amen. Because you're keeping your bullpen as fresh and ready as it can be as well. There's a lot of benefits to a starter handling, a starting staff handling the bulk of innings in the season. I want to say there's like 1,400 innings in a season, or maybe 1,500. You have to look that up. I haven't been looking at that in 4 years since I'm done. But you want your best guys to handle most of those innings. And who's your best guys? Well, usually they're the starters, because the starters are given the bigger responsibility, bigger roles, bigger long innings, more workload. That's kind of what I've always believed. I've always believed in that, the starters. But things change. I get that. I don't know why. I don't know what you could be thinking. Make it make sense to me. And nobody has.
Before I let you go, Coop, I want to share one more story with you and get your thoughts on something. So game 1 of the World Series, I'm there with my family. I got mom, dad, my sister, and me. The 4 of us are there. We're down the third base line, and it's time to bring in Bobby Jenks. And he comes walking in. Ozzie does the famous thing where he throws his arms out to call him the big guy. The whole place is electric. He comes in. And my father is so nervous during the warm-ups that he's up behind one of the concrete pillars. He's so afraid. It's like he's watching a horror movie. He's so nervous about this that he's like 10 rows.
The visual I'm getting is you're sitting in your seat and he's behind the pole and peeking out.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Trying to get a look-see, but he doesn't.
Yeah. Something to kind of tell you this. He isn't the only one. There's a bunch of middle-aged guys that like fell in love with this team in the 50s and never won anything, who are just walking around, and they're all pacing while he's warming up. And Jenks goes up against Bagwell, who I think had just gotten over an injury, and he throws the first one by him, and Jeff Bagwell can't get the bat around quick enough. And all of a sudden, to the side of me, here's my father, who has sprinted down the stairs and hits me with both hands and just starts screaming, "He can't touch him. We're going to win this game. He can't touch him." And he was so excited. And he was at Bobby's debut as well. We both sat behind the dugout we were behind the visitor dugout when Bobby Jenks debuted, and Lou Piniella turned around and looked right at us. We had our beers on the dugout, and he looked right at the two of us because we just happened to be the guys closest to him, and said, "Where the hell did you find this guy?" Tell me a little bit about Bobby Jenks. It's really a shame that he passed on, but tell me a little bit about that guy.
Yeah, it is a shame. He was a wonderful kid, and I think of his spirit. As you were talking and Bobby coming in, I was thinking, wow, it's a cool moment, and I've heard many things like that. Fathers and sons that have been waiting, forever for the White Sox and stuff like that. And Bobby Jenks, again, wonderful kid. He interesting kid, not the cookie cutter guy. He liked to have his fun. He was young, still young, married, couple kids, and physically, he had tremendous stuff. He had starter stuff. He had 4 pitches, and they were all good. They were all, isn't it nice? He had the whole repertoire. And big, strong, intimidating. The looks that I saw hitters giving him after an at-bat was like, what the heck is that? Who is this guy? So the hitters knew real quick what they were up against. And Piniella, if he said that to you, I know Lou. And Lou knows pitchers. Lou knows guys who got some stuff. And but Bobby was a wonderful kid. He was the third guy. I think we had Shingo first, and then we had Dustin Hermanson, who did a tremendous job. Not a good job, a tremendous job. And then Bobby came, and because I think Dustin had a little bit of back issues, but he
had some back problems. I remember that was something he was dealing with during the year.
Yeah, and then Bobby came, and it was a whole different world. And I remember the first time he threw a fastball and then went up on the radar gun and the stadium, and there was oohs and ahs. And again, stuff-wise, he worked himself in because he did well in his outings to, hey, now we're going to go to this guy, get the last 3 outs. And he was as close to a sure thing as anybody else had in baseball at that time. Nobody wanted to see him come in the game. None of the hitters. And he took care of business. And again, just a wonderful kid. It's so sad that he's not here. But I'll never forget him.
Amazing. Well, Coop, I'm never going to forget what you and that team and that coaching staff and that whole group did for me and every other White Sox fan. And, I mean, all professional interviewing, broadcasting stuff aside, I'm a fan. And I'm honored that you came on the show. And I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for 2005. I mean, that was for everything, all your seasons and everything like that. But thank you so much for that. It meant so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure. Each and every one of us associated with that team. And hopefully everybody realizes this. And I think probably most do. We were blessed. This was a gift. I remember saying 3-4 years after the World Series, winning a World Series is the gift that continues to give. It was like, that was some ad campaign back about 20 years ago. The gift that continues to give. That gave so many coaches, players, more, they got more and more opportunities to play because they were part of a world championship club. And people like that. People want that, because of the experience that you go through. It was quite a ride, The 162 season, holy cow, to do what we did, phenomenal year. And each round of the playoffs was so exciting and so much fun. And, each celebration we had got bigger as they went. First one was in Detroit when we clinched our playoff spot in first place. The next was in Anaheim. I'm sorry, no, the next was in Boston. We beat Boston up there, and that was the immaculate, well, not the immaculate inning, the inning Hernandez too.
The inning that convinced me that we might actually win a World Series. That was the first moment I thought, oh my goodness, this could happen.
I had a little bit before that, but I get it. I get it totally. Like, holy shit, how did we get out of that? And because they were the world champs. We had them down 2-0.
You see, you don't know it. You were in the dugout. You were in the dugout. You don't know it. You guys, that moment made the ESPN commentators basically cry on air. Like, Chris Berman got verbally upset that his team could not score a run. It was amazing.
I didn't know that at the time, but I've heard it recently over the last 2 or 3 years how so many people that were pulling for Boston were they weren't real happy, and they couldn't believe that happened. And let me tell you something, that was in itself, that inning. People forget he didn't just pitch that inning, he pitched 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
So he pitched. And interesting story. We could do another show. I'm telling you.
I would love to do it. I would love to do another show with you. We'll have to do it down the line.
I tell you what. Then we'll end it that way. But there's even more. So much more. We just scratched the surface in a lot of ways. But I appreciate it. You gave me my baseball fix. I hope some of the people find it interesting, the stuff we were chatting about.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Don Cooper. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So nice to have Don Cooper on. I would love to have him on as many times as he wants to talk baseball. You can tell that guy has not been asked enough about the game of baseball, and he has a wealth of knowledge, and he cannot wait to talk about it. So I would hope, and I believe it in my heart, you will hear Don Cooper again on Sox in the Basement, and it's always a dream come true for me.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
To talk with somebody who was a part of that 05 team, and to hear the stories.
And just even the opportunity to talk about somebody that's that knowledgeable,
yeah,
and frankly opinionated about baseball is fantastic. I mean, that's why we love the sport, right?
He knows his baseball. And you're not going to get a better source when you talk about pitching and what, could happen in today's game and things that he might want to go do. I mean, it was fun to sit back and listen to, and I really enjoyed it. I hope everybody else did as well. It is now time for the Sox Nerd. You hear that music in the background as it's starting to taper out already. It's brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience the downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, see everything they have going on. There's a huge jack-o'-lantern festival with thousands of jack-o'-lanterns over at the Forge in Lamont. There's a new episode of Lamont Unlocked covering that next week. You can get a preview of it. It was really cool to see. See everything at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd, take us home.
Fellas, I just can't quit the 2025 season. Spoiler alert, I probably won't for a while. So here are some more nuggets on the recently completed campaign. About that last series, Sean Burke set a White Sox record for relievers with 10 strikeouts in the season's penultimate contest. The next day, 4 pitchers, Smith, Alexander, Leisure, and Cannon, combined for 13 strikeouts, which were tied for the most in a Sox combined one-hitter. The 4 pitchers were not the most used by the Sox in a combined one-hitter. That number is 5, set on August 25th, 2019 in a win over Texas. The hurlers that day were Lopez, Marshall, Bummer, Fry, and Colomé. The improvement Sox catchers made from 2024 to 2025 was incredible. I have to believe it is unprecedented at any position in Sox history. In 2024, Sox catchers Corey Lee, Martin Maldonado, and Chucky Robinson combined to hit 173 with a .213 on-base percentage and .291 slugging percentage. The trio had 15 homers and 42 RBI, with Lee accounting for all but 4 of the dingers and 11 of the ribbies. In 2025, Sox catchers, thanks mostly to Kyle Teel and Edgar Caro, slashed .276, .374, and .394. The homers were down by 3, but the RBIs were up by 14. That's a 103-point improvement in both batting average and slugging percentage, and a 161-point boost in on-base percentage. There's an intangible here, too. Last year, with the catching situation, there was a lot of hopelessness. This year, it's just the opposite. In fact, I can't remember a time where the Sox had 2 promising backstops on the big league roster at the same time. I want to put a capper on a few bits I threw out there a few weeks ago. These Sox finished with 60 wins, which is a 19-victory improvement over 2024. The 2025 Sox fell shy of fashioning the greatest turnaround in team history. The Sox' biggest full-season yearly improvement came from 1989 to 1990, when manager Jeff Torborg's second team won 25 more games than his first. The jump in wins from 2024 to 2025 is the Sox' largest since 2000, when that team improved by 20 games over their 1999 counterparts en route to a division title. Will Venable tied Lou Fonseca for the most losses by a first-year Sox manager. Lou dropped 102 games in 1932. Fonseca had the lowest winning percentage for a Sox rookie skipper at .368, and his 56.5 games out of first place are a Sox worst. And that team didn't even finish last that year. And one more. Despite my jinx, Chase Meidroth did end up leading the majors with a .327 average and .393 on-base percentage leading off games. Meidroth was at .383 in this role when I brought it up a couple of weeks ago. He went 0 for his last 8 with a hit-by-pitch starting games to drop his average almost 60 points in this situation. As I said before, next time I'll just keep my mouth shut. Before I get to my zinger, I remind you that gems like these and long-form pieces are on my blog, which you can link to at soxinthebasement.com. My zinger, in honor of the 20th anniversary of the World Champions, I'm going to zing frequently about that team, throwing out some gems you may not know about the 2005 Sox. The 20th anniversary of Orlando Hernandez's Houdini act in the 6th inning of Game 3 of the ALDS was on October 7th. While that bases-loaded escape was amazing, what's kind of forgotten is that there was no letdown for El Duque after that. He threw a scoreless 7th and a scoreless 8th while allowing only 1 hit to get the game to Bobby Jenks. In the process, he struck out the likes of Damon, Renteria, Ortiz, and Veritek in cementing his spot in Sox lore forever. That's it, guys. Probably more than you wanted to know about relief strikeouts, combined one-hitters, and my old pal, Lou Fonseca.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.